Good evening, good morning, good day, wherever you are in the world, and thank you so much for joining another live streaming session from a home in Italy. And tonight, I'm on my own. Can you believe that? Tony's he's gone to England. The producer's gone to England, so I'm left with this to do it on my own, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be definitely a fun one, this one. So please do me a favor. Let me know that you are listening to me. I can see somebody's coming in already. Please let me know. Write in the chat box. Tell me whereabouts in the world you are, just so I don't think I'm sat here talking to myself. I'm seeing some people coming through. On at the moment. On Facebook, but don't see anybody on YouTube yet. So if you're on YouTube, then please write in the oh no, we've got a YouTube one. That's Ron. Just let me know I'm not talking to myself, because it feels really weird. I've got all these screens all over the place, and I haven't got a clue what I'm doing. But there you go. Bear with me tonight, folks. I can see people are coming through, which is fantastic. It's always good to see support. Thank you so much for joining us again this evening. So if it's first time, my name is David Benton. Together with my wife Silvana, I've been doing this now for too many years. I can't believe. Sorry, I'm just trying to get rid of. What do I do here, Tony? Why have you left me like this? I've been doing this now for 15 years, helping people buy, restore, and relocate to beautiful Italy, and hope to carry on doing so for ever and ever and ever. So yeah, if it's the first time, welcome, and it should be a good one. We're talking about my favorite part of Abruzzo, which is of Italy, which is Abruzzo. Graham's asking, how's the arm? Much better, Graham. Thank you very much. For those of you who didn't know, I had a bit of a fall the other week. Lots of people send me kind messages, which is very, very, very kind of you. Even though my wife said I'm a complete wimp, I only went over my ankle. It is true. But it was I reckon if anybody from Hollywood would have seen me, I would have got a part in something. I'm sure I would have done. So thanks again for asking, and thank you so much for joining us. On a serious note, as I say, tonight we're talking about Abruzzo. We do this one quite often when we talk about Abruzzo. I want to try and slightly do things a little bit different. It is called bite-sized Abruzzo. What I'm going to try and do, because obviously please nobody ask any questions at the moment. We'll come to the questions shortly. I want to get to know the kind of things that you're looking for. What's the kind of, I want to be able to advise people where to go, what I think would be the best areas for them, based on their needs, their criteria, what they're looking to achieve, whether they need public transport, whether they need, I don't know, do you want to be in a larger town? Do you want to have easy access to ski? Would you rather be closer to the sea? And so on and so on. So I've got a number of things that I've written down here that I'm going to go through, but I will open the questions up. Please don't ask any now, because as I said, I am on my own a little bit, and so some of the questions I may miss. So I'd rather they all come a little bit later. So before we get on to the questions, let's just quickly have a look at what we're doing next week. So next week, the 20th of July, buying with a home in Italy. The reason why I'm doing this one, as most of you know, these Thursday evenings, it's not all about me sat here selling a home in Italy, because I don't think it's right to do that. The idea is to sell Italy in general, and to give you the confidence to come out here and feel comfortable about the process and that kind of thing. That's my idea. But I do get a number of people that contact me saying, Dave, can you help me? How can you help me? And sort of it. I want to basically explain to you what we do, why we're a little bit different to other. I'm not an agent, so I'm not going to say agents, but why we do things a little bit different, and the kind of services that we can offer to you to help make your dreams come true, basically. So it is an important one. I also want to talk about remote purchasing, which we're doing probably. It's unbelievable how many are doing, at least 80 or 90%, including with this guy, Tony, who's just writing in. Hi, Dave, just back from our trip to Abruzzo, started renovations. Excellent. Visited many beautiful areas in Abruzzo. So glad we found you and helped make our dream of owning a home in Italy come true. It's an absolute pleasure, Tony. And I'm so glad that you're enjoying the place. That's the most important thing. So yeah, so next week is going to be a little bit about that. It's going to be going through going through things like the remote process and going through how we can help you, because I just think it's important to get the word out and what we're planning on doing and all that kind of thing. So that's going to be next week, and then the week after, when I find it, the week after is, oh yes, Meet the Home Buyers is back again. And this is the one with a family that's moved out from the States with their 2 children, moved straight into their property. This is going to be a great one. It's going to be, yeah, they were very brave doing this. So that's going to be fantastic. It's on the 27th of July. And hopefully they're in the property. You'll hear about a few things that's what's happened. But hopefully fiber optics are going to be put into their property tomorrow. So if that happens, then everything should be all geared up and ready for the 27th. So yeah, that should be a great one. The other thing I wanted to tell you about as well, I want to tell you about the tours. I'm going to tell you that shortly once we get started on the subject of Abruzzo, because I do think that is it's a good intro to it. So I'll come to that in a second. So that's July. August is a strange time during living here in Italy, because it's party time, basically. My favorite month of the year, August. So it is when people just go into festa time. So that's I am still going to be doing the webinars, but there may be 1 week out. I'm away at the end of August, beginning of September. I'm actually going to Sardinia, so I'm hoping that the internet is good enough where we're going to do a live stream from there, which should be quite good. And I'm also meeting some contacts there in Sardinia. How sad's that? Going on a holiday, but meeting some contacts. My wife loved that. So I'm actually meeting some people to go and see a couple of properties as well. So you never know, I might do a live showing of a property or something like that. Shezi is saying, hi Dave, finally be in Vittorito this coming September. Look forward to seeing you again. That is fantastic news. So happy for you. A great couple. They bought their property, an amazing property in Vittorito. I've not even seen it yet. I can't remember when you bought it now, Cheryl, if it was a good few months ago anyway. So that's fantastic that you're coming back in September. Brilliant stuff. Okay, so yeah, so August I will be putting the plan on what we're going to be doing every Thursday night, but it may slightly change because, as I say, it's festa time, and I'm hoping to try and do a few live things from certain festas as well, wherever possible. I am going to be working on some other content for YouTube. Obviously, we've got all the houses that we put up for sale, but I am going to be doing some other content for YouTube and starting that from next week. So look out for that. If you're not subscribed to the channel, then please subscribe. That's always good to keep in touch. I'm just going to be doing snippets of sort of some of the legal stuff, some of the important stuff, but doing, rather than having it as part of the streaming as we normally do on a Thursday, I'm just going to have sort of a few minute videos on some important subjects. So that's going to be coming. Next week as well. Okay, so Roger's saying, when will we get the itinerary for the tour? So Roger, I think you're booked in for October, aren't you? I think that's what it is. What we usually do on the tours, we will contact you. We'll be contacting you over the next week or 10 days to arrange a time when we all get to speak as a group, and I'll tell you exactly what the plan is there. So we'll do something similar to a live stream, but obviously just for those that's coming on the tours. So while we're on the subject of tours, that sort of nicely coincide. Anyway, it does. With tonight's subject, where we're talking about Abruzzo. So these tours, for people that don't know, the idea of them, usually I've only done them sort of once, twice per year, but they have become really popular, which is fantastic. We're running 2 in October, and I've now decided from 2024 we're going to do these dates: January, March, May, September, and October. It's going to be more than likely the last Thursday and Friday of each month, but I will confirm that. Other than March, because I think Easter drops somewhere around about the end of March. But the idea is, when people sort of come to Abruzzo to view properties and all that kind of thing, obviously lots of people have never been before, absolutely no idea what it's like. They don't know anything about the area, and it can be quite daunting just to come out. Obviously, you've been on the internet, you've looked at properties, you've got your massive list together, and then all of a sudden you think, right, we've got to get around this place now, and I've no idea if we will like it and all things like that. And things like what Randall's just has asked here, which, if you can hold questions off just for a second, or give me another 5 minutes and you can start asking questions. I want to be able to answer these. I will try and answer things like this tonight, But these tours, the idea is you get to see the place as well as houses, because so many people make a huge mistake of just sort of viewing house after house after house without actually thinking about the area too much. You do loads of research on the internet and all the rest of it, and I can understand that. But then when it comes to booking, it's all about the houses, and I see so many people disappointed when they've spent a lot of money getting out here, and all of a sudden things haven't worked out because they haven't quite found the right area, or the houses that they thought didn't quite work out. The idea of the tours is you get to see the area, in our opinion, the best areas, which I'm going to go through tonight. But also you get to see houses as well. So, you may be fixed on a townhouse, but then you may see a detached house that you think, well, actually this works better, or vice versa. And the idea of these tours is that it really helps people focus on areas and the types of properties. So next year, we're really going to be focusing on those rather than individual viewings. We are still going to do some individual viewings because I know some people maybe have been before and you do want to sort of start narrowing down your search, and I completely understand that. But we are going to be doing a lot more on the tours. So if you are interested in that kind of thing, then please send me an email, and I'm going to put the email address that we see. Normally Tony does this, he's not here, is it? That's the email address, the info@homeinitaly.com, and let me know that you're interested. I will be organizing the dates in the next 2 weeks, and then I will send a full itinerary out for next year. I know it sounds crazy, 2024, when we're only in July, but the 2 October tours, I think we've only got 1 seat left now, or possibly I may be able to do 2 for the 26th and 27th. So if you are interested in that, send me an email to info@homeinitaly.com, and obviously tell you about that as well. So they are great things because it is more about getting to know the area. It's also great to spend time with other people that are looking to do this kind of thing, and people then stay in touch afterwards. We have a WhatsApp group that people sort of follow each other on and become friends and all the rest of it. It's really good. So hopefully you're going to join us on some of those in 2024. Okay, so what we can do now, start telling me a little bit about any questions like what we've just, and I'm going to answer Randall's question here, which is which area of Abruzzo is old Italy? I want authentic Italy. I'm going to talk a little bit about Abruzzo, and then let me know the kind of thing you're looking at. Let me know if there's an area that you've been looking at that you're really interested in, and maybe you've seen a house there on the internet and you can't get it out of your mind, and you just want to say, what do you think of these areas? Please let me know. Okay, so let's kick this off. Let's start. I mean, Randall, I'm going to come back to you because I'm going to tell you what I think is the authentic Italy. I do think that Abruzzo is authentic in everywhere, in the sense of it's not fridge magnet city. If you're looking for tourists all over the place, and as I say, fridge magnet shops everywhere and fridge magnet stands and all this sort of stuff, you're not going to find that in Abruzzo, thankfully, yet. Some areas a little bit, but not as much as some other places. Ron's got a great point here. Looking for local convenience due to no car, close to public transport trains, taxi, bus and train. Okay, these are the kind of things that I want to see, because these are so important that you understand where you need to be looking, because it's pointless looking at the whole of Abruzzo if public transport is number one, because it's just so difficult to get around. Let me give you some basics about Abruzzo. I'm not going to show you a load of photographs. I will show you some as we get going. But let's just give you some basics on this. Let me do this share screen, which this is definitely going to go wrong, isn't it? I can see that. I hope you can all see Google Maps. It is a little bit blurred sometimes on here, and hopefully you will shortly see the arrow. I think you should be able to see the arrow on that. Okay, let me just give you a few things that I need to tell you about Abruzzo, and then let me see if I can make this map a little bit bigger. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so hopefully you can see it, and hopefully you can see my my arrow. So Abruzzo is obviously quite a large area, and it basically runs just south of Vasto, up to just north of Giulianova, and then inland to Aquila and sort of all of this section. So you're really close to Rome. Obviously, you've got Rome over to Pescara. I don't know why these things are flashing up. It really annoys me when that happens, but I don't think I can get rid of it for now. Let me see if I can find a different map. Now we all know where Abruzzo is. Okay, this one's a little bit better. So we've got Rome somewhere. Hopefully you guys can see my arrow. Bear with me 1 second. Here we go. So we have Rome that is in sort of this sort of direction, and we have a motorway that cuts right through the middle of Abruzzo from Rome. So Pescara to Rome takes about a couple of hours. It is a fantastic drive. So don't worry about if you can only land into Rome airport or something like that. I used to absolutely love that because I lived in the north of England. So I used to fly into Rome and drive over to our house, which is in roundabout here, Palombaro, there it is. So it's roundabout sort of this sort of area. If you can't see the arrow, please let me know. I think people should be able to see it, but if you can't, please let me know. So the drive over from Rome is dead simple. Other places that you can fly into, which is really easy, is Naples. Naples is easy to get into the south part of Abruzzo. So even sort of, I would say where the arrow is again, any part down here, Naples is dead easy to get to and from, because this road here basically takes you straight to Naples. They are developing a part of it where it dips into Molise. They're spending billions there to connect this part to this part here, which is going to cut about 20 minutes off the time. So again, you got about 2.5. It takes me about 2.5 hours, 2 hours 45 from here to Naples. And then also you've got Bari, and there's also Ancona. So it is quite easy to get around. The trains are fantastic. My mum and dad have just been out. They flew into Bologna and then jumped on a train straight down into Pescara. It was dead simple. So you've got all of the north of Italy. If you come into Milan on the train straight to Pescara, so simple. So getting here is really easy. So let's just look at a couple of facts now. So this area here is the Maiella mountain range, okay? And this area here is the Gran Sasso mountain range. If you are looking for staggering backdrops and looking for sort of real, what can I say, dynamic, stunning scenery, then these are the main mountain ranges. In these areas, it's smaller mountains. They're still mountains, but they're more hill type mountains, if you want to say that. The huge mountains are here and here, and then obviously as you go further inland, you also get the mountains of Lazio and that kind of thing. So that is a fact. So if you're down in this area and you want access to the really high mountains, you've got much further to go because the roads are not particularly good. It's very difficult to get from, say, here straight across to the mountains. You sort of have to head to the coast, up, and then inland again. It does take a while. That's a fact. It's just the way it is. So huge mountain range. So all the backdrops that you see, the photographs of Abruzzo, will all be from these mountain ranges. Another fact is from round about just north of Ortona upwards, the coastline is completely different to Ortona down to Vasto. Completely different. So what do I mean by that? Just show you, flick through a few pictures. Here's some of you will have seen this before because I have used this on other streaming sessions, but it's important to know. So this is a beautiful beach at Pineto, but this is the type of beach from Ortona northward. So Francavilla, Pescara, Montesilvano, heading north. This is the kind of style. They're still glorious beaches, and they are still. I mean, the sea's fantastic and everything else, and lots of these are blue flag beaches. As you move down the coastline, it is completely different. This is Vasto. This is the furthest south in the well, the furthest south is actually here, San Salvo, and then you run into Molise. And on this picture, you've actually got the end of Abruzzo is around about here. Termoli is here. I don't know if you can see it, but this is Termoli. And then if you can see the dark shaded back part in the background, that's the Gargano. So that's into Puglia. But this is what the coastline is like from Ortona southwards. There's also a cycle path along the coastline that is absolutely fantastic. And we also get the Trabocchi. The Trabocchi are ancient fishing vessels that have now been turned into restaurants and that kind of thing. So they are fantastic. They really are. They're a huge attraction to the area. And the coastline, the new cycle path that they've done for me is at its best when you get to sort of the areas south of Ortona. And in my opinion, I'm going to go back to this map because I want to show you. If you want to see examples of the best part of the Trabocchi coastline, in my opinion, it's around Fossa Cercia, between sort of Fossa Cercia and heading towards San Vito, these sorts of areas, and on up towards Ortona. I would say this is in my opinion, is the best part of the Trabocchi area. So that's a really important thing to understand about it. So if you're looking for beach access, even if you're on this side of the mountains, it's not too far because the motorway takes you straight there. So from Sulmona, for instance, which is a fantastic place, we're going to talk about that shortly as well, to Pescara, you're talking 40 minutes, or maybe you can jump on the train, or maybe you can catch the bus and things like that. What I want to say is you need to don't look at a map and think that just because it's closer to the coast on the map that it's going to be quicker to get there, because that's not true. I live here in Palombaro, and I have 5 or 10 minutes of sort of curvy driving, if you like, until I hit the bottom here of Carsoli, and then I have a straight road that takes me straight to the coast. If I go in the opposite direction, I have lots of bends in this road to get to Guardiagrel. That is a fantastic place. And then I've got this fast road that takes me straight to the coast. So hopefully, again, I don't know, actually, sorry, you probably couldn't see, do apologize. I'm talking away there, you probably can't see the arrow, you should be able to see it now. So me being in Palombaro, I jump down onto this road and I'm straight to the coast. A few curves in the road here, and then I'm jumping on the fast road here and straight to the coast again. Whereas people that live maybe in these areas, there's a place here, Casalanguida, I think it is, even though it looks much closer to the coast, there's a lot more bends and things like that on the road. So it's actually not as easy to get around from these areas as it is from some of these areas. So don't sort of look at a map and think, okay, I need to be, this looks like it's closer, let's go for that. You need to look at the road infrastructure. That's really important. The other thing to consider, where I am in Palombaro, the scenery around here is stunning, is really, really stunning. But the problem we have is we don't have any public transport, or we have very little public transport. And I'm going to go into that in a second. So again, if public transport is important to you, you need to consider that you really need to look into the times of the buses and really need to understand if there are buses that go into the area. And what I would say is I've come across people that have said that they've contacted agents and people like that and asked if there's buses in these places. They've said yes, and then they found out later that there isn't. It's too easy. When you ask a question like that, is there a bus? I can say there's a bus that passes here, because there is. My kids jump on the bus every morning to go to school. When my daughter's in university now, but when she was here, they could get from outside my house, they could get a bus to Lanciano, which is a big town. They could get a bus to Carsoli, the next town along. And then from there, you can get buses. The problem is, where I am in Palombaro, if I was in the car, it's 5-10 minutes to get to Carsoli. It's nothing. I can see Carsoli. I can't see it from here, but from my father-in-law's house, that lives a few hundred meters away from me, you can see Carsoli. Okay, so you'd think to yourself, looking at it on a map, well, that's okay. I'll find my way to Carsoli from Palombaro, and from there I can get a bus to anywhere. That's not true, because for me to get to Carsoli, I've got to go down a hill that's probably a good 300 meters by the time you get down. Then I've got to go back up again, or get down onto the main road. So again, looking at these maps, it's really, really difficult. Now, Ali has got it absolutely bang on there, saying the tour bus app is your best friend. Take notes of this, because the tour, and I'm gonna try and do a screen share with that as well to show you how it works, is a great app. The problem is it doesn't cover all of Abruzzo. I found that in the south there seems to be a couple of other companies that seem to do the south area, and it seems that you need to sort of have a few apps. But Tour is the one that is a great app that covers, dare I say, the best areas with public transport. That's what you should be looking at. You should be, rather than just saying to people, saying to an agent, you know, are the buses, like I say, I can say the buses, but they only come first thing in the morning. They take the kids to school and then they come back once in the afternoon. So for instance, if I had to go to Rome from Palombara, I would get up at sort of whatever time it would be. I think the bus passes here about 7 o'clock in the morning. It will get me to Lanciano around about 8:20, and then I can get on a bus to Rome. You can do it. But then if I have a day in Rome or something, it's coming back that's the problem, because there's only one bus to bring me back, which leaves Lanciano probably about 1:30. And that's it. If you miss that, then you're completely stuck. So, you know, some agents may say to you, yes, there are buses, but one in the morning and one early afternoon is going to be really difficult for you. And so you really have to start homing in areas before you come out. It's so important. Again, because so many people come out, find that out later and think, we've just completely wasted our time. And again, this is why the tours are great, because we will show you the areas that do have the best public transport. So if that is really important to you, then I'm going to go through, in my opinion, what some of the best areas are for public transport. I'm going to do that next. Then we're going to talk a little bit about renting properties. If you think about renting, what I think is going to be the best part to rent. So Mike's asking, do you work in Vasto? Do you ever have properties in the centro? I've actually just taken a great little property on that's going to come on at 69k. I want to do a video of it because it's really close to the center. It's got a small roof terrace, a couple of bedrooms. It's not a huge place, 2 beds, small kitchen, living room with nice vaulted ceilings, and it's literally a 3-4 minute walk from the beautiful wall area where you look over down by the sea. That is going to be a great. I'm going to try and get down there and do a video of that hopefully next week and put that on there, because that's a cracking place. What I will say, Mike, if you watch next week's streaming, then I will tell you how we can help in situations like this, because I don't necessarily have a lot of properties in Vasto, but I do have contacts there, and it's just a case of, if people know exactly what they want, such as yourself, Mike, you're saying that you're looking at Vasto, that's where you want to be. If you say to me, Dave, I want to be in Vasto, this is my budget, this is what I'm looking for, that's how we can help. And I'll go through that sort of next week. It's quite difficult when people often do contact me and say, you know, I'm looking for a property in Italy. It's sort of like, well, that's a little bit sort of difficult. But if you can really home in on what you're looking at, maybe you've seen something that you really like and think, I'd rather work with you, Dave, then before you contact the agents, then contact me, let me know how we can, I'll let you know how we can help. And I will go through that next week as well. So Dan has come up with a great point while we're talking about transport. Non-residents cannot buy a motor vehicle. Can a non-resident buy electric bike or other electric vehicles if you want to live outside the city? Electric bikes are really popular. They are absolutely fantastic. And yes, as far as I'm aware, there's no restrictions on electric bikes, as far as I'm aware. And you are correct. Non-residents cannot buy a motor vehicle. You do have to be a resident to buy a car in Italy. So otherwise you do have to rent. But the electric bike is a great thing. And I'll be honest, my wife bought me an I hope she's not watching this downstairs now. And I said, I must get one of these bikes. I am one of these people that sort of has all the best intentions in the world. I'm going to be out there. I think I've been on it about 6 times. She bought it about sort of 3 years ago. And I honestly thought to myself, there is no way an electric bike is going to drag me up these hills. Bearing in mind where I live, and let me just, I will show you now on this photograph, just so you can understand. I live just to the right. Let me move myself out of the way here. Okay. So I live basically here, just around, I think that's my house, that little white dot there. So as you can see, we're not actually, it looks like we're up in the mountains. I'm not actually up in the mountains. We have the mountains as our backdrop. If I looked out the window to my left now, this is what I look at, which is superb. Palombaro's here. On the left, but as you can see, it is quite sort of hilly. But these bikes really do get you around. Again, this is Palombaro, but even though they do get you around, and there's still certain areas where I would say you need to be, if you want to easily get around and you don't want your battery to conk out, which mine did one particular day, then again, you've still got to think properly about the where you are. So it is so important. But yes, the electric bikes are a fantastic idea, and in my opinion, either closer to the coast or around the Sulmona area is a superb area. But I'll go through that in a second. Claire is saying or asking, what about e-scooters? Are they allowed to be owned as they are everywhere in Rome, or is it government-approved areas only? E-scooters, no, I don't think there's any restriction on those. I know some. I remember the hoverboard. We got my son a hoverboard years and years ago, and they were quickly banned from certain areas. But e-scooters are everywhere, and these new electric things, they are fantastic. So I really do. It is a great thing. The thing is, the reality. You've still got to be real. If you get an e-bike or something, it still doesn't mean you can live anywhere in Abruzzo because of the distances between places. I said on a map between Palombaro and Casoli is nothing. But when you're going down a mountain to come back up a mountain, it's a completely different thing. So e-bikes are superb, but it's still going to restrict some of the places where you should be looking. And I'm going to go through that in a second, some places where I would recommend. Okay, so I've got a few more questions. I'm going to go through these. We're interested in Pratole, Peligna. Can you help us find a property there? Yes, funny enough, I was there today, actually looking at a property, and Pratola is a place that I'm going to be definitely working in. So please do send me an email. Tell me the kind of thing you're looking for, and I will definitely be on the look. I was there today. It was absolutely, so hot at the minute. I'm just sat here. You can probably hear the fan buzzing away in the background. But yeah, it's a great little place. And the good thing with Pratola is that, again, the public transport's very good. These are parts of the areas where Sulmona is. You can easily get to Rome and those sorts of places. So that is a great place, and I will be showing some things. There is a house that we took on there today that for that area is a good price. I'm going to do a video on that as well really soon. Eric is saying, asking what considerations do expats typically not consider when buying a home in Italy that might differ from their home country? Taxes, insurance, utilities, literally anything you can think of. Okay, well, really we're talking about Abruzzo at the minute. So I'm just going to, what I would say, what people don't consider is what we're talking now, is they don't consider the terrain. They don't consider how huge an area it is. And people don't consider getting around. That is a big one. You know, we've now realized that living here, and I love living here, and we won't move for a long time. If our kids sort of stay around here, we will stay here forever. If our kids do the Italian thing and you know, we split the house in a certain way and they choose to live there, we will stay here forever. If our kids move somewhere else, we wouldn't be able to stay forever, because obviously when you get to a certain age and all the rest of it, and you maybe need public transport, it does become sort of an important thing. So it's sort of you've got to be realistic. You've got to be really realistic about where you buy. As I said, this area I absolutely love, but you do have to be realistic about the future and that sort of thing. Let me just. What's this next question? So we've got this comes up a lot as well. Scott, what's the climate like? Long hot summers and short or long cold winters? Much rain? Does it vary depending where? It does vary depending where. Obviously, the closer to the mountains, you can get more rain, but also closer to the mountains, certain times of the year it can be gloriously sunny up here and raining down by the coast, or cloudy and foggy down by the coast. It's very hot at the moment, but Europe's having an unusual heat wave, but we've probably had the worst start to summer that I've known in the last 15 years that I've been here. It was constant. It's been raining for I don't know how long, and now all of a sudden we've got heat like you wouldn't believe, and it looks like it's going to go on and on and on for a while. So yeah, I would say the winters, I love winters here because it's never grey, or very rarely grey. Nice bright blue skies. Can be cold, but certainly not freezing. You're not under a load of snow. You've seen the area. You know, I've shown you where I live. This is the kind of terrain where I live, and snow on the ground this year was probably a few days. You know, it was nothing, and it's getting less and less and less. I say unfortunately because I actually like when it snows and that kind of thing. So I would say the winters, the winters can be cold because your body temperature gets used to the heat. So when you've been living like this for so many months, all of a sudden when it drops down to sort of 5, 6, 7, 8, even now when it drops down to 11 or 12, you know, I'm talking Celsius here, not, no, what am I talking? Degree, whatever it is. I always get these mixed. Not Fahrenheit anyway. It's the other one. So yeah, it's just what your body temperatures change to. So I would say, some people may disagree with me, but I would say winters are bright. I would say quite short. You get probably a rainy month during the year. But then sometimes it can be very dry, and if you do get rain for a day, then you get a month's worth of rain in a day. So I think it's a great climate here myself. Okay, let's just quickly look at this one. Claire is saying they're great for getting around, e-bikes, but agreed, a car is probably the key. But guessing a small one like a Fiat Panda, yeah, I mean, really you do want a car as well, because there's so much to see in Abruzzo. We had this conversation last week, and I don't know who was watching last week, but the stream cut off just because Tony was going to be here tonight. Unfortunately, had to go to England, and we were going to carry our conversation on. And the stream cut off, and apologies for that. I meant to say that earlier. But it's sort of, Abruzzo is the attraction, not just one town, not just one. There is so much to see. This morning, I took my parents back to the airport, and it was an early rise. It was 4:30. I dropped them off at the airport at 5:30 in Pescara, headed out towards Sulmona because I was meeting Domenico and my colleague over there to go see some properties. And it was obviously too early by the time I got there. And I thought, I'm going to go to see Capistrano. I've never been to Capistrano before, and I wanted to go there. And then this was me hanging around a village around about 5:30, 5:45 in the morning. And just as the Carabinieri pulled into town, we've actually been stopped by the Carabinieri twice today. One because I was taking photograph of a house that was for sale, and then another one because I was hanging around a village at sort of silly hours in the morning. But anyway, and then from there, I went on to a place that I completely forgot the name now. No, it's completely gone. Anyway, saw these places, and in the distance, I saw this village, and I've never seen a village as high as this. It just looked to be unbelievably high. So I got my Google Maps out, and I've never actually been there. It's a place called Rocca Calascio, which is where the famous castle of Abruzzo is. And it just looked incredible. So, you know, when I got home, I said to my wife, we've got to go there. We've been wanting to go for a while. Must go there because it looks absolutely fantastic. And when I saw it today, that is Abruzzo. That's what you do when you're here. You go to these places and you say, right, tomorrow we're going to go there. Then the day after, I may go to Lago di Scano, Lake Scano. Then I might go to, you know, you may go to Sulmona, you may go to Aquila, you may go to Città Sant'Angelo. Somebody mentioned Città Sant'Angelo. You may go to the beach, you may go to ski resorts, and all of that kind of stuff. And it's that is Abruzzo. So even when you do come out and you think to yourself, I don't want to be hiring a car for months on end, I understand that, but you're going to be hiring cars at some points. Otherwise, you're just going to miss so much. It's just a shame not to. You need to be near public transport, but you also need to be thinking that you're going to have a car at some point as well, because you're just going to miss. You're going to miss loads of things, loads of experience. That's what Abruzzo is all about. Dan saying, if you moved today and did not have a car, aside from Sulmona, what are your top 3 places that you would choose with good transportation access? What a great question. That's the kind of questions we want, folks. I don't know. No, it's let me go back to my map. Let's I hope you guys don't mind me flicking away as I do, because as I hate to admit that, you know, Tony is reasonably helpful sometimes. Let me take this question off so we can see the map a little bit better, and let me see if I can increase the size. So Sulmona would be top of my list. I've taken to it so much. Sulmona, I really have, which is around this area. If I had to go somewhere else, the best place, right? First of all, I'm going to tell you the best places for public transport, in my opinion, and then I'll tell you which ones I would choose. So for me, number 1 places for public transport, and what I think somebody asked earlier, what's genuine Italy, as in old Italy, then it has to be around the Sulmona area, around the Peligna Valley, because it's not just buses, but it's also trains as well. And the train lines run basically where this motorway, hopefully you can see this arrow, where this motorway runs, and then they go up and down the coast. That's where they go. And they're followed by coaches that take you to Rome, and then they're followed by the normal public transport. What I think is great about this area, and I know you said to me, Dan, other than Sulmona, so I will come to that, I promise. But what I do like about this area is even the smaller places. I was looking today on what Ali mentioned, I think it was Ali that mentioned the tour app, to see how many buses there are from some of the small villages that take you into Sulmona. You're talking sort of 8, 9 a day, even the smallest places. And that, for me, is great. That's a huge thing, to be able to jump on a bus and go to a bigger town, then get wherever else you need to be. As you run along this motorway area, you have places like Torre di Passere, which is a nice town. It's okay. You have places like Manopello and Alano. These are really nice places as well. I think if I had to choose somewhere else, because Lanciano has good, I would possibly see. I'm not keen on the areas around Lanciano, but I do like Lanciano itself, so that would be on the cards. I would possibly look maybe around Cepagati, Spoltore, and maybe another place called Pianella. Sort of maybe this sort of area, and this is similar to where Città Sant'Angelo is, that lots of people talk about. If we're purely talking about having good access to public transport, I also really like Chieti as a town, but some people may find that that's too big. So I would say, if I had to pick 3 places other than the Sulmona area, so for me, this will be first. But if I have to pick another 3, I would say around these areas, around Spoltore, Cepagati, those sorts of places, around Chieti, and around, no, I'm going to choose Vasto over Lanciano. But these are bigger towns, so you've got to take that into consideration. The reason why I keep harping on about Sulmona is the fact that, you see, I love some of the small. I've said so many times that the heartbeat of Abruzzo for me lies in the small towns and villages. I always say that, and it's not always possible to be in a small town and village when you need to have public transport. So I would say the unique thing about the Sulmona area is the fact that you can live in these small places and easily get around. So that is, to me, it still stands out so much as an area. But yeah, Vasto, Città Sant'Angelo, those sorts of areas, I would say. If you are definitely reliant on public transport, this area here is the cheapest area of Abruzzo, where all the main cheap problems are, but the infrastructure is not as good. And you tend to have to go, if with buses you go into GC, then you have to change over, and it can be quite long drives to cover short amounts of time. And also it can be, I don't know, there's for me, it's just lacking something a little bit in this lower area, but it is a really cheap. So if you're on a real budget, then you know it could be worth a look. But if you have no public transport at all, then be careful in these areas. I will say, make sure, go onto those apps and see if you can find the buses that you need. Where I am, Palombaro, you need to have a car. But nearby Carsoli and nearby Guardiagrel have got good transport links, I would say. It's if you want the genuine Italy, if you really do, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it again. It has to be around the Sulmona area. And I know some people are going to say, but Dave, that's where you're going to say that because that's where you show properties. I've done the legwork to say these things to you, and I'll be honest with you now. The first time I went to Sulmona, I didn't get it. I wasn't impressed. I can't believe I wasn't, considering now it's one of my favorite places, if not my favorite place. I didn't get it. I don't know what was wrong with me that day, whether I was just in a mood or something uh, was going off in, like, I don't know. I didn't get it, but it's sort of, it's that genuine thing. It's that living in old Italy, but having the convenience of modern life. That's the reality. People can say, no, I disagree with that. I think this area is better, that area is better. But when it comes to the crunch, if that is so important to you, then you've got to be hard on yourself. You've got to say, right, okay, I can't look at these areas. You can't keep looking at photographs and looking at houses. Look at the view out of that window. Look at this, look at that. Because if in the end, you can't get a bus to where you need to be, or a train to where you be, what good is it? You've got to be selling it soon. So you've got to be hard on yourself. You've got to be and that's why just looking on the computer, you're going to drive yourself absolutely nuts. That's why you need to go on these tours with us, get to know the place, understand how it all works, because so many people find properties on these tours. It's fantastic because we see a lot of properties. So many people find properties, but if not, you go away thinking, I've got it now. I understand how Abruzzo works. And that takes some working out, because it's difficult to explain until you're here. But yeah, you really have got to start looking at the area properly. Use that app. When an agent says to you, yes, there's public transport, double check it, triple check it if it's so important. Some of you may say, he keeps talking about public transport, I don't care, I'll drive. That's fine. For instance, Carol is now saying, can non-residents lease a car? I understand that they can, and there's certain companies. Somebody's mentioned here one in Sulmona, believe it or not. From my research, there are a couple of very well-reviewed daily car rental places in Sulmona, good prices, can also do longer-term rentals. I've heard that as well, Eric, as well. I've heard there's an American couple that we sold a place to, and he rents from a place in Sulmona. I've heard that, and I'm trying to hunt this person down so I can give his details, because I have heard that. But yes, so in terms of leasing, I think you can get it so you can get a month and 2 months, but I don't think you can get like an official lease, if you like. Tony's asking, is establishing residency good enough to purchase a car, or do you need Italian citizenship? No, it's residency, Tony. So you don't need to be a citizen. You just need to be a resident of Italy to buy one. So even if you are Italian, but you live outside of it and you haven't got an Italian address or anything like that, then you still can't buy a property. You've got to have a residency here. And it's also, I mean, I've said this before on other streaming sessions, but it's like that also in the UK, because you need to have a UK driving license to be insured. You need to be, a UK resident and that kind of thing. And obviously, if you're not, then you're going to have problems with insurance. So I should imagine it's a similar sort of thing as well. If an Italian went to America and just had a holiday home and they wanted to buy a car and insure it, don't know for certain, but I can imagine there being some obstacles there. So yeah, it is a bit of a pain, and that's why you need to really look. As I say, just looking at some of the other questions just to see if there's anything before I go on. Okay, let's carry on I want to talk about rental. People that are thinking about buying a property and then sort of renting the property out. I'm going to tell you, in my opinion, and I know you're going to sort of start talking again about, which area I'm going to talk about. I'm not just talking about that. Michael's saying we need Tony for the added sound effects. It's true. We're going to show a couple of these. Pete saying, I chose Pacentro, near to Sulmona, because of the small town presence of a butcher, small grocer, active church, and proximity to Sulmona. It's perfect for me. Great point, that, Pete. Great point. He's going to be hopefully with us next month on me. That is a great point, because you do have that small town, the local butcher, the local grocer, that's what makes your life different. That's what makes, when you buy a holiday home, me and my wife discuss sometimes having a holiday home. Would we get much use out of it? Would you, when you go on holiday, you do holiday things. When you have a home, you do homely things. And the two are completely different, in the sense of, when you go to your holiday home, it shouldn't just be about, okay, let's go to that bar, we like that restaurant, we'll do that, and that's it. That's your life for that holiday, because you get bored after a while. You need to go somewhere where you sit there and you think, that's it, I'm here. Oh, and while I'm here, I'm going to pop down and see Mario down in the local butcher shop. And then, you know what, I might go and have a drink with Franco, who owns the local restaurant, and that's what Pete's talking about, and it's bang on right. That's the beauty of the small towns in Abruzzo, because that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. So let's now talk about, let me get to the end of the questions. Okay, let's go. So let's talk about a little bit about if you're looking to potentially rent your property. Now, I've been on Airbnb just before we came on, just to get some ideas of prices, of the average prices that people are renting their properties out for in different areas. So the areas that I chose to look at, let me just show you again on this map. The areas are Sulmona, Città Sant'Angelo, Palmoli, which is in this area, Atri, which is another popular town, and Palombaro, where I live. So it's a good spread, sort of all over the place. I've not spoke much about Teramo. I do quite like Teramo, but I find this area a little bit sort of not sure. I don't think I always prefer these sort of central areas myself. But anyway, let's talk about these difference in rental things. You'll actually may be surprised to know that when I looked at the rent, so I looked at a peak week, not the peak week, but a peak week in August, and then I looked at completely out of season. I think it was like early November, something like that. So for an entire home for two people, Sulmona, the average was, this is peak season, was about 134 per night. Città Sant'Angelo was between about 170 and 190. Palmoli was hovering around 100. Atri was about 170, 190. And Palombaro was about 130, which was similar to Sulmona. Now, I was quite surprised with those numbers because they're all reasonably similar. When it comes to out of season, Sulmona 110, Città Sant'Angelo 135, Palmoli 100, Atri 130, Palombaro 110. So again, sort of similar sorts of prices, average. But what I did notice is that the averages in all of the places, other than Sulmona, to get those averages, there was some really out of place high rental places. So to give you, not pulling Palmoli down or anybody that's, and just so you know where I'm talking about now, I'm going to put this on. So we're now talking about the south part of Abruzzo down here. So Palmoli, I think, is round about here. It's not the best map in the world, but it's round about this sort of area. Actually had decent averages, but what I noticed was that it had a couple of places that were like 350 a night. So that really boosted the average up, because to me, the average, taking those couple of places out, would have been quite a bit less. But in terms of investment, the properties down there are cheap. So you could potentially get something at 20, 30K maybe in the town, you know, and you've got a good, if you're looking sort of just for investment reasons, then you've actually got, that's a good investment when you start looking at it that way. But if you're wanting to use it and you need public transport, so on and so on, I'm not saying there's no buses there, but it's not as easy to get around. And there's no trains and things like that. You have to go down to the maybe to San Salvo, probably the closest ones. So there are some compromises for me. The other interesting ones were sort of around Città Sant'Angelo, which I did expect them to be quite high because it's close to Pescara. Città Sant'Angelo and also Atri. Atri is a really nice place. The only thing for me about Atri that I'm not so keen is I find everything else around it a little bit, it's just okay. So what I love about where I live, I'm not going to say Sulmona, I'll say where I live, is that there's a number of great places around. I've got Guardia Grail close, which is really nice. I've got Faro San Martino, which is really nice. I've got Casoli, which is really nice. I've got Chieti close by, Lanciano. I've got a big set of things around me that are great places. And it's the same in the Sulmona area. But I just find up here it's sort of lacking a little bit, but that's just my opinion. But looking at these areas for rentals, these are on the higher side, the 170 to 190. But again, there's a number of properties up there that are villas with swimming pools. What I noticed about Sulmona was that the average was as high as or pretty good up there, but for townhouses and for there wasn't anything that was really spiked up to get that average. And for me, that's a good sign, because obviously some of the areas, when you go into places, you know, you do like Airbnb and you're doing your homework and all that kind of thing, you sort of, you know, you may look straight away at that average price and think, oh, I'll go there. But you really have to look at it to make sure there's nothing that's spiking it. And what I find around that area is we're talking about the kind of houses that are really popular at the minute, and that's just small townhouses or maybe apartments and things like that. And the prices are fantastic in those areas compared to somewhere like Città Sant'Angelo, where the prices can be more because it's closer to Pescara and all that kind of thing. So if you're looking for investment, if you're looking for rental potential, if you're looking for ease of access, you know the kind of areas that I am going to say, and I will keep standing by it, because this is the research that I've been doing for the last number of years. Bearing in mind, I only used to, when I was part of an estate agency, we only used to sell properties around this area, around Palombaro. That's when Brits were buying. That was before Brexit, because Brits could easily get a car. You just change your license over, get a car, and that was it. We were part of the EU. Once that stopped, it took away that big piece of the market that's now being filled by people from other nations. But even the Brits also need public transport now, because, well, now if they can get here, they can change their license. But places like America, Canada, all those sorts of places, you can't just exchange your license. There is talk within the EU that may be changing, but don't take that as a definite. And again, if you're only using a place for a few months and you're not going to become a resident, you can't have a car anyway. So putting everything into one basket and saying which is the best for the types of towns. In other words, the historical side of it, the public transport side, the rental side, and everything else, it has to be that area. It has to be around the Sulmona area. Unfortunately, some of the towns on the other side of the mountains, like where I live, you know, they were really heavily bombed during the war. They're still fantastic places. I love where I live, absolutely love where I live. But some of the towns are not as ancient as they are on the other side, because they did get badly destroyed in the war, and they didn't get really rebuilt. Obviously, they got rebuilt, but not as authentic as some of the areas over the other side of the mountains. So again, all of that kind of thing can be, needs to be taken into consideration. So when you're looking at everything, you know what I think. Scott is saying huge difference in rent between inland properties and coastal rentals. Yeah, there can be, because if you've got an apartment in the centre of Pescara, you can get $3-4 grand a month with no problem at all. Maybe even more than that. But you're only talking a couple of months a year that you can get that, and then nothing the rest of the year. And then also you've got the prices and all the rest of it to actually buy it. So whereas some of the inland places that you can buy for 40, 50, 60, 70K, you'll be doubling and tripling that with a shorter window for renting. So it's sort of, again, you need to do your homework on things like that. But I still find the investment potential in some of these smaller towns and villages fantastic. A quick note on Città Sant'Angelo, and I'm going to show you a few pictures before we sign off. So let me just get this back on the screen, because a lot of people do talk about Città Sant'Angelo. It is a nice little town, you know, and there's nothing wrong with it. Some people say, no, that's the area I want to be in. You got to remember around these areas, and I don't say this to put people off, and you know, you're just saying that because you've got no properties. If I wanted to get properties in Città Sant'Angelo, I can do it with no problem at all, and would happily do it. That I've chosen certain areas where I work for a reason, and I can justify that reason all day long. I find, as much as there's some great areas here, it is quite, there's a lot of industry. There's some incredible countryside between Città Sant'Angelo and Penne, for instance. There really is some real sort of cracking countryside. But Penny, I'm a little bit. It's not. It is. It is a good place. It's very popular, and it's not for me to say, not to go there. Obviously, do go and do have a look at it. There's reasons why I've chosen the place that we have. I just find if you're going to visit these areas around Città Sant'Angelo, at least then come down and look at these areas as well, if transport issue is not a problem. So I would say somebody asked earlier about the real authentic sort of towns and that kind of thing. None of us can ignore Vasto, even though I'm not as keen inland from Vasto, but it's, I'm not pulling it down. It's just a little bit harder to get around. It is the cheapest part of Abruzzo, and you get bargains down there, and it is really nice. But there's a few too many towns that's not got enough in them, and it's quite difficult to get around. My opinion. Some people may say that about where I live, but I would say for the authentic places, Vasto is hugely important for some beautiful views from Vasto. We can't ignore Lanciano because that's got a beautiful historical centre. We can't ignore Guardiagrel, beautiful centre. We can't ignore Chieti. Ron's just saying Lanciano wasn't bombed. That's true. Some of these places, Chieti wasn't. Chieti was classed as a free city, and they didn't touch that. But yet Pescara got completely destroyed. So Vasto, Lanciano, Guardiagrel, Chieti. I will say Penne. Even though not as much for me. Atri, L'Aquila, which is beautiful now, and obviously Sulmona. But the most important place at the minute that's important to the tourist board and everything else is Sulmona, Guardiagrel, Vasto. These are really important places for the Abruzzo tourist board. And they're doing a lot of work on pushing these sorts of areas. So let me just quickly go through a few photographs of the areas. Some of you may have seen these before, but let's just quickly run through some of these. You've seen the difference. This is Vasto. This is the view from the old town of Vasto, and it is absolutely beautiful. It is stunning, Vasto. If you're looking for, if you want to be by a seaside town, the only thing is if you live in the old town, bear in mind that the walk down to the beach is a walk, in the sense of you're quite high up in the old town. So it's not that you can, this is not the town, this part here. This is Vasto Marina, which is like any other, it's a modern Italian seaside resort. It's all right in the summertime, but in the wintertime, it can be a little bit sort of drab. The old town is beautiful, but consider when you've been on the beach all day, you don't want to walk up to where I'm taking this photograph because it will take you a while. Then let's have a look at a couple of other pictures. I've shown you the Palombaro ones. This is Carsoli, close to us. What a great, beautiful town Carsoli is. Transport links there are pretty good. So yeah, I mean, you wouldn't really have problems if you wanted to get to if you want to get around from Carsoli. I would say it's pretty. You're not close to the railway network, so you are a bit further from that, but it is fantastic. And on this photograph, you can see. I don't know if you can see these antennas that are up here. That's actually a ski resort. You're really close to the national parks. Great place. I would definitely recommend certainly having a look around this area as well. Just be mindful of the areas around it of public transport. I know I keep going on about it. It's true. This is Faro San Martino. I love this little place. It's near to us. This is where Di Cecco Pasta are. It's these towns around here. They've got real striking backdrops. Faro San Martino, I would say public transport. Yes, there's a few that will get you around. So yeah, I potentially put it on the list if public transport is really important. But if it's really, 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 really important to you, do your homework. Say to yourself, if I was going to Rome and I wanted to get back the following day or can I get back? If my flight lands at I don't know, 10 o'clock in the morning at Rome, can I get back to my house? That's what you need to look at. This is next to Faro San Martino. Again, this is the kind of backdrop that's around the area where I am. It really is beautiful, beautiful. This is a place called Manopello. That's a great town, a great old town. Then you've got buses that take you down to the new part, and you can get to trains and that kind of thing. This is Letto Manopello, again with some, while you're around the mountain ranges, these are the kind of backdrops that you get in these towns. So these are sort of, this is the average of the scenery of Abruzzo, if you like. This is beautiful. This is Rocca Morice. It looks like there's not a soul on the street. This day was absolutely boiling, and everybody, I don't know if you can just see in the corner, there's a few people in there. Everybody was in the bars, in the air-conditioned parts. Again, Rocca Morice. This is incredible. This is why you need a car sometimes to go and visit places like this, Santo Spirito in Rocca Morice. We've got over 1,000 years of story here of a church built into the side of a mountain. It's mind-blowing. And that's what Abruzzo is all about. That's why, you know, you can't just be stuck in one place, because there's a lifetime of things to see here. There really is. This is my favorite. This is Sulmona. I do absolutely love here. It's really old in a valley. It's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Again, this was taken from a roof terrace of an apartment that one lucky person got in the center of Sulmona. This is Pacentro, where Pete has just bought, who hopefully is going to be coming on next month. Again, absolutely beautiful, beautiful town. This again is Pacentro. In the background, you see this is the Peligna Valley all here in the background. So you've got Sulmona here. This is Pacentro. Right in the background there, I'm not sure if that is Raiano or Vittorito. It's all these sorts of areas. And as you can see, it's all around this sort of valley area. This is Chieti. Pescara is a modern sort of city that unfortunately was bombed terribly in the war, so there's no old part to it, but it's great cafe bar culture. But Chieti has got that authentic Italian sort of look. It's almost like a mini Rome, if you like. And that's it. So that's just a quick sort of run around Abruzzo. So let me answer a couple more questions, and then I will. So let's look at this one. Michael saying, now there's some areas that have more industrial zones than that you would avoid for that reason. I'm just parts of when you get closer to. It's not that I'd avoid it. It's just I prefer to see glorious countryside. Around Sulmona, there's a lot of industry. You know, before you get into the town itself. But because the way Sulmona is positioned, you're sort of low down and you're looking up at the mountains. So you're not sort of up high looking down onto factories and that kind of thing. I do find the areas around Città Sant'Angelo a little bit built up, a little bit of industry around there, but there is some glorious countryside as well. So it must be seen, that area. You know, it really must be. I keep saying to myself, I am going to start working more in that area, but there's something still stopping me. But it's got to be seen. It's got to be on your itinerary. It really has. Quick question about the tour. Somebody's just mentioned the tour. Somebody just mentioned, oh yeah, Brett is saying, is the tour in October full? And if so, when is the next planned tour? I think, Brett, if you email me at the info at, let me just put the email address on. If you email me at info@homeinitaly.com, we may be able to fit 2 on the 26th and 27th. So if you are interested, email me on that, and I will let you know for definite. Let's have a quick look. Here we go. I'm going to answer this quick question. Are there any properties shown on YouTube still available? I don't want to assume one way or another. The YouTube properties do tend to go pretty quick. I'm trying to get my website and YouTube talking to each other a bit better, and it is. I'll be talking about this next week. I'll explain everything to you next week. Maria's saying an Intro d'Acqua, superb place, great location, because it is just 5 minutes outside of Sulmona. Okay, I'm going to leave you with this last thing. Let me go on to if you are visiting Abruzzo on your own. Let me just go back, and you're here for a certain amount of days. This is how I split it up. Some people are going to shout. If some people that have got properties here, please don't shout at me. This is just my opinion. But I've traveled everywhere, so I'm entitled to a little bit of opinion, and I would give it anyway. If you're here for a month, go everywhere. If you're here for a week, then I would say that you must visit this area. So around the Maiella, go up to maybe as far as Atri. So this kind of area, and have a look around there. And yes, you've guessed it, definitely around the Val di Poligna, which is actually quite a small part of this last bit. So if you're only here for like I say, week, 2 weeks, you should be able to fit that in. So that's saying miss this and miss that. I'm not being awful to these areas, but if you're here for a month, do everything. If you're here for a real short amount of time, if budget is number one, absolute number one, and you've got access to a car and you don't mind that, then this is the area to look at. But don't just look there. If you can't get too far, look here and then look around where I am. At least those 2 areas. Don't just go here on its own. And again, it sounds like I'm pulling that area down. I'm really not. But don't just go there. Dip into this part as well. If you're here for less time and you're saying to me, a short amount of time, what can I quickly see? Definitely the Val di Poligna around Sulmona, and then this sort of area. So you get Manopello, maybe get Guardiagrelin, and keep it around the sort of the network of motorways and trains. I would say that would be my advice. Anybody coming, but my main advice would be come on these tours. We tend to show you sort of along this purple line, so running between these 2 mountain ranges, and then around this area. This is what we tend to sort of concentrate in these areas. But for me, it's a great thing to come on the tours. But if you're doing it yourself, that's how I would split Abruzzo into bite-sized pieces. There you go. Okay, guys, I'm sorry it was a little bit possibly all over the place today. I'm not used to doing all these things on my own. Thank you for sticking with me as per usual. Love doing these Thursday night things, and whenever you guys are given the amazing support that you do, I will do it for as long as possible, and I really hope to help as many of you as possible in finding your dream place in Italy, in Abruzzo, hopefully. If you are looking outside of Abruzzo, obviously I can help with that as well, but please tune in next Thursday so I can tell you a little bit more about the kind of services that we offer in full. Okay, guys, thank you so much. I really, genuinely, really appreciate all the support you give. You're absolutely fantastic. We'll see you again next Thursday, where I sit and tell you all about what we can do for you. So it's a bit of a show-off time for us next week. I'm allowed to do that every now and then. Thank you so much, guys. See you really soon.